Can you imagine going from $0 in your bank account to making over $75,000 a month with your business in less than 2 years and generating over $10 million in the process for your clients? Well, that's my story. My name is Justin, and I'll take you in today's video through my journey of how I went from not having much money to now owning this business that I just spoke about, getting my dream car, a Tesla Model 3 wrapped in satin black, getting my first luxury watch, a Rolex, traveling around the world last year, and walking towards my dream life. Most of you probably don't know who I am, and although I'm very far from having made it, I hope that this story will inspire you to go after it, to motivate you, and to show you that just with hard work, anything is possible. I grew up in a rural area outside of Montreal, so not on the island, so outside of the big city, roughly 45 minutes away from downtown Montreal. Let's start things and this story from the year 2007. So during that time, my father was actually studying to be a firefighter while working at a telecommunication company. So I was spending the vast majority of my time with my mother and my brother back at home. We were your average middle-class family, one-story house in an alright neighborhood, going to a good school. And I'm lucky to say my dad really got me into sports. At the time, I was 6 years old and already playing hockey, soccer, and was about to get into basketball. My dad coached me pretty much all of my childhood in sports, and I'm honestly super grateful for it. He's instilled in me a lot of these good habits and the discipline that you need to have as an athlete. If we go to school now, I was a pretty studious kid. Again, thanks to my mother. I was very good academically speaking, but the one thing teachers always had to say about me is that I was talking too much. I was talking, never shutting up in class, and teachers did not like that. So they kept bringing this up to my parents, and I kept getting in trouble for it. But all in all, I was considered a respectable and very calm kid. But this all shifted in 2010 when my parents split up. I became very troubled. Look, I'm not here to mope and to talk about how it sucks to have split up parents, but as any kids that went through that might be watching this video, it was a pretty traumatic experience based on the circumstances at that time period. Mother actually left the house, ended up being with another guy, moved in with us with his entire family and kids, and we just fell into a whole new life and rabbit hole with the snap of a finger. And that pushed me down a pretty dark path. Back then in school, they used to give you little yellow notes if you used to get in trouble, and I got over 19 of them in a single year. I was getting into fights constantly, always trying to prove that I was better. And the thing is, I was a very skinny and small kid. I was smaller than all the other guys, both on the X and the Y axis. So with that being said, I was getting picked on consistently, and I was always biting the hook and just fighting back because I wanted to prove something. Now, getting into high school, I really found refuge within video games. So that's pretty much where I started throwing myself in. I was playing a lot of Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 2 back then were popping off. Those are the first games that I really got into on the Xbox 360, and that was my first goal in life, was to become a pro gamer. Now, before you laugh, this was the big era of FaZe Clan and Optic Gaming, and I just wanted to be like one of them and to do streaming for a living. 2012 is actually when I posted my first YouTube video, but it's only until 2015 that I actually started a channel and consistently posted on this channel every single week. But let's go back a minute. So what happened between 2012 and 2015? At the time, I was a soccer coach and a soccer ref during the summers. That was pretty much my only job, and I was roughly earning $10 an hour to do so. So that was my first experience, first touch of money back then. Now, as I was getting more addicted to video games, that started being pretty bad for myself. This is when I started gambling on CSGO. So if you guys aren't familiar, Counter-Strike Global Offensive is an online video game where there's actually marketplaces where you could gamble. There was skins in the game where you could actually play the roulette and any of these other casino games on these third-party websites, and I used to get addicted to that. All the money that I made during the summers, I would put into gambling and hopefully make more money back, but more often than not, I ended up losing all of it. So much so that one day, I woke up and my bank account was in overdraft protection. I was actually in the negative because I had spent too much on gambling. And at the time, I was forced to sell my cell phone, which basically was the only property of value I had at the time, to make the money back to pay my overdraft fee that I had. I was getting picked on even more at school during that time. I actually had a video game name that I used to go by online, and people were calling me by that name at school, laughing at me, and that was actually also my close circle of friends. So To be honest, I felt very alone, very secluded from people, and YouTube really helped me get out of my comfort zone back in the days. I'm so grateful for that time period because one, it taught me English. Before that time period, I didn't speak a single word English. And because I played video games online, because I recorded YouTube videos and wanted to have bigger exposure, I forced myself to essentially learn and speak English consistently. Now, because of that same YouTube channel, I fell in love with graphic design by need and not by passion initially. Here's the thing, I quickly realized that I was never going to make it in a gaming client. I was not good enough as a player, nor did I have the right video skills. But I wanted to make graphics. I actually wanted to have a better brand image. I kept telling myself, there's no way I'm going to be paying somebody 20 or 30 bucks on Fiverr to make me a YouTube header or a logo. I'm going to do it myself. So through watching videos and self-teaching myself on YouTube, I taught myself Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, Adobe Premiere Pro, and Sony Vegas Pro, which became huge parts in my skill set for the next couple of years. And that was my first experience in 2016 with entrepreneurship. I started offering graphic design services to people online to help them build a better brand image within the YouTube and Twitch communities. So that's how I started making a little bit more pocket money while being in high school. So at this point, I actually was working at a sports store. I also had a couple design gigs on the back. So I was making roughly 12, I believe, or 13 bucks an hour working at the sports store. And I was making maybe 100 to 200 bucks extra a month from my freelance design gigs. Now, that's where I managed to get my first car, which was actually passed on to me after the death of my great-grandfather. And that car was a great gift for a couple of months, but it had so many repairs to be done because it was an older car that I had to get rid of it and actually buy my first real car within the next few months, which ended up being a 2010 Mazda 3. In my mind, I had made it. I had a good car, I had money coming in, a little bit from freelance, a little bit from this. I was doing YouTube videos here and there, and that was just kind of cool. But I always knew something was missing, and that's only gonna come until a couple of years later where I figured out the missing piece in that equation. So before that big turning point, I got into college. I decided to get into college in graphic design. And that was honestly either the best or the worst decision of my life, because having done so, the program was the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. I knew every single thing already they taught us in that program, and I was able to submit some of the freelance work that I was doing as projects in school, getting me grades for work that I was being paid to do. So honestly, that was probably the best case scenario I could find myself in. And now the big turning point in my life happened in 2020. That was the biggest shift and what really propelled everything for the years to come. In 2020 in March, big event happened, the whole world shut down as you guys know it. At the same time, I broke up with my girlfriend of 3 years. I was honestly sad and depressed for probably 4 to 5 days. I was crying all the time, I was moping, and then at some point I remember vividly, I was in the shower, steaming hot shower, crying. Got out of the shower and was like, look, I can't keep living like this. I've been victimizing myself for years. Now, I was just letting all of these events negatively affect me, and I was like, I gotta do something about it. This isn't how I should be living life. At the time, I was working at Apple. So I was working for Apple at one of the Apple stores, making about 2,000 grand a month, working part-time for them while being a college student and still freelancing on the side. And luckily, Apple had an employee health program. So I decided to go there to hire a psychologist that was basically free of charge for me because Apple was paying for it. And I did like an intensive 12-week with a psychologist who helped me solve a lot of issues. Like we really went deep, solved a lot of the childhood trauma that happened from that separation between my parents, a lot of the stuff that went on, a lot of the me getting picked on, and uncovered a lot of this stuff. And in the same time, I started working out 3 times a week. I started watching personal growth and development podcasts and reading books. It's like whole personal growth journey started within these 3 months. I've never progressed faster in my life than that 3-month period. And that's where I bought my first online courses. I actually bought 2 courses. The first one being a Udemy course on drop shipping, which I basically went through the entire course, launched a very small store, but never even ran ads to it. So that was basically a flop. And the second one that I bought was actually Maxi by Arlen Moore, which was, I believe, new at the time, which was more of a mindset tool to help guide your thoughts essentially and achieve your goals. I ended up getting back with my girlfriend because I realized that I actually was the problem. And now that I fixed a lot of these problems, we actually came back together. And hey, hopefully it worked out because today, the time I'm recording this video, we just got engaged 3 months ago and we're actually planning our wedding. And if you've enjoyed this video so far, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Helps the algorithm push this video to more people, and let's get back into it. I also happened to reconnect with an old friend of mine who I basically lost touch with since high school, but that used to be my best friend from 6th grade to basically the 3rd year of high school. That friend dropped out on the last year of high school. And when I was a freelancer, he actually hired me as a contractor for a gig to basically do a design for his clients. And that surprised me. I was like, holy shit, what, you've got an actual business going on. But I didn't really catch on at the time. It was only up until middle of 2020 where we reconnected, and I realized that this guy, same age as me, used to be my best friend. I worked for him as a freelancer. He was making $30,000 to $40,000 a month running a real estate marketing agency. And that's where I had a big click. At the end of summer 2020, I started asking friends and families and people on Facebook and people on Twitter if anybody wanted design. And a few people started baiting. So people wanted a design, some branding, some websites. So I started to do all of that myself and already then made $1,000, then $2,000 a month. And I was like, great, now let's turn that into an actual business. So October 2020, I bought a course from Iman Gotzi called Agency Incubator. Bought that course, went through all of it. November, I made the decision to build an agency. And by the early January, I was already making $4,000 a month. So in the month of December, all the way to early January, I had actually closed my first 2 clients. And I had already my first 2 clients making $4,000 MRR. And I realized, shit, I'm making twice as much as I am at Apple with something that I enjoy a lot better and gives me more freedom. So I quit Apple very early February 2021. And I decided to go all in at the business at the time. Fast forward 3 months later, I'm in my last 2 months of college. I'm right about to graduate. My business is making $8,000 to $12,000 a month at this point. I've got 1 contractor working for me, and to graduate college, I had to do a full-time internship. So I was interning for an agency in the UK from 3 a.m. Eastern to roughly 9 a.m. Eastern, as that was basically the UK hours at the time where I had my internship, then going to classes, and then working on the business. Craziest times of my life, but looking back at it, that built so much discipline within me that I'm honestly grateful for this experience. And if we fast forward to 2 years later, I've continued on the same path. Right out of college, I decided to dive full time into the agency game. And now I run a $75,000 a month agency. If I look at the last year, I had already moved out also, which I forgot to say, for the last year in my dream apartment. I done 3 trips in 3 months. I went to Spain, to the Canary Islands also, which also belong to Spain. I went to the US, did a couple day trips also more in Quebec, where I'm from here in Canada. And all of that to say, I went out of my comfort zone and explored life and just lived as I never had before. At our highest, we had 18 clients on retainer. We had 12 team members part of the agency. That was honestly crazy times, but it was so fulfilling to see this dreams come true. And as of lately, we've actually rebranded our paid advertising agency from Wizzle Media to paidadvertising.com, which is a big branding play for us moving forward as we're expanding into new industries and services in the next couple of months. And if I had to pick one moment, one aha moment in the last year, was when I was in Spain. I was in Spain, in Marbella to be precise, on a yacht with some friends, with a jet ski in the back of the yacht. I had just gone to Louis Vuitton that same morning to buy a bag and a wallet for myself and a wallet for my now fiance. I was sitting on the jet ski right beside the yacht, looking at the coast of Marbella, just thinking, wow, like how did I just go from having basically being in overdraft protection on my bank account just a couple years ago, wondering what life's going to be about, going through a bad breakup, and all of this to now being here in this position, just enjoying life to a whole other level that some people will always aspire to live. Just in a couple of years, all you need is 2 to 3 years of putting your head down and working. That's it. It took 2 to 3 years before starting to see some form of financial freedom. I cannot yet claim that I have full-time freedom, as I still am somewhat needed in my business, but I have partial location freedom and financial freedom after building this agency over the last 3 years. I've got great plans in the future. I've told you about this free brand a couple minutes ago. We're looking to dive deeper into the educational space and also more as a built-in release programs that we're building right now to help both brands and agencies build their own marketing teams in-house, and future is bright for the team at paidadvertising.com. I hope some of you watching this video can take this story and realize that you are in control of what you're doing with your life, that you can do essentially whatever you want. And so as long as you, 1, set goals, 2, have a vision, and 3, have discipline, It's all you need to start putting one step in front of the other. And I'm also said this entire story and background to show you that this is not overnight success. This isn't some guy that just out of nowhere started making some money. There's a lot of little steps. YouTube helped me learn English and get confident and also learn how to make content. Then YouTube pushed me into design, which design pushed me into college, which pushed me into building my first agency, right? My first version of my marketing agency. This is a snowball effect. It's not one thing that led to all of this. It's a series of life events that threw me in different directions and allowed me to acquire all the skills needed to make this happen. I'm gonna tell you, if you have any questions about anything and you're getting started in your journey right now, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll be making sure to reply to as many of you as possible with as helpful advice as possible. If I don't respond here, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. Likewise, I'll do my best to respond back to you. And on that note, make sure you subscribe to the channel for some more life, business, entrepreneurship, marketing, and e-commerce tips. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.